was in business for years, and I used to repair Persian rugs. They were evicting me, and I says, why do I gotta go to all this? I'm sitting here in the park in the cold weather, and the birds came to me, and the squirrels came to me. And I says, this is a better life. I was thinking, like, should I start all over with a new business, you know? And I go, why? I don't like people. Well, I like to teach the kids to not throw snowballs at the birds or the squirrels, you know? And once they get to know them, they're in love with them, you know? Like, pigeons got a bad rap.
When I went to public meetings about these urban spaces, people talked about homeless people and the pigeons in the same way. And, you know, and they would say, they're just so filthy and they just make it a place that I don't want to bring my kids. And so there's this sense of like filth and disorder, right? Of our urban spaces not under control. When pigeons kind of became seen as this epidemiological threat, which they're not, but they were seen as this epidemiological threat. And then rats with wings kind of solidified this. It's a metaphor that actually does work of making us not think that they have any moral standing.
Well, I feel like I know them for a while, these pigeons. Some of them, or most of them, this is like a colony. It always comes back the same ones. They return. Every now and then one of them comes with tangled strings on their feet. So I try to catch them, get them really close when I feed them and catch them and remove the string. And they do have a certain personality, if you will. But they do actually follow me around because I set up different places, my flags. So sometimes I set them down 59th Street and they come over there, but not all of them. Like 2 or 3 that come here, they will find me down there.
What are you doing? What are you doing? You want the almond? Actually, 8 years ago, hated pigeons. 7 years ago, found Jocko here. Hold on one second. Found Jocko and his brother Jicky as 5-day-old babies. Jix! Excuse me, 1 second. Jicky! Jix! Finally get one. It's not coming over. Too much food. The pigeons that you see specifically in Washington Square Park are 6 or 7 separate flocks that come here during the day because this is where the food is. And then my guys fly here too because when Jocko and Jicky were about 3 months old, I attempted to re-release them into the flock, not realizing at that point their homing instinct was already in full kick. Oh yeah, I got to know Paul. What happened was I basically came here every day with a cat carrier and 2 beautiful red pigeons, dropped them off with Paul, avoided the park like the plague for the rest of the day, got home, only to discover they were on my windowsill waiting to come in. Now, the impressive part is not the homing, because at 3 months old they can home very well. The impressive part is the fact that they flew back to my building and then looked in every single window till they saw the living room and said, okay, this is where we live. Have you ever seen a pigeon stand there and all of a sudden puff up his chest and the wings go out and his tail feathers come down and he goes, brrr, brrr. Yeah. That's a boy. That's the mating dance of a boy. Pigeons make excellent pets. Jocko, shoulder. Jocko, you're gonna get stepped on. Shoulder. Shoulder.
It's not legal to trap pigeons, but people come with nets in the morning, early, at dawn. They toss seed, I've seen this happen, and they throw down these nets and capture street pigeons. They take the pigeons across state lines to Pennsylvania to sell them to private clubs for pigeon shoots. But people who have videotaped this, have taken photographs, have even gotten a license plate of people who net these pigeons, take it to the authorities. No surprise, the authorities don't care. This kind of idea of them is just these pests, they're rats with wings, they're invasive, so who cares, right? Makes it possible for people to get away with what is actually a criminal activity. Because while it's not technically criminal, even if it's morally reprehensible to shoot them in Pennsylvania, most of the ways that these pigeons are obtained is criminal. But nobody's prosecuting. New York just doesn't care, right? Because of this sort of cultural idea that pigeons are just not worthy of our moral concern.
The pigeon shoots have been going on for decades, and the one most people are familiar with is what they call the Higgins pigeon shoot, and that was actually being held over the 3-day Labor Day holiday weekend. Eventually that was shut down. But the problem is people think that there isn't any more pigeon shoots, and unfortunately that's not the case. So as we're walking closer to where they're shooting and where we're standing at on the public property, you'll hear Steve on the megaphones. He's trying to make them as miserable as possible.
Hey, scumbags! Scumbags! Does it feel good to kill defenseless birds, you cowards? You know, the only ones who have any dignity on that property are the pigeons! You're just stinking cowards!
We don't say anything nice to these guys. We show them no respect or consideration at all. I'm sorry, they are the lowest scum. They're the lowest life form on the planet as far as I'm concerned.
So you'll do this all day?
Oh yeah. All day, every day. But there's no sense in just turning ourselves hoarse.
I'd like to address the pigeon shooters on Wing Point property. You guys are crap.
I saw my first pigeon shoot as I was on my way to shark fishing, because that was the big thing that I was doing at the time. I had been a hunter and a fisherman since the age of 4 or 5, and but at this particular time I had a boat out that I kept out on Long Island, and I was headed out to that boat, and I saw the now defunct Higgins pigeon shoot. And I mean, I killed many, many animals in my 30 or so years of hunting, but I mean, we just didn't just wantonly slaughter. There was always a purpose, and when I saw this slaughter for the sake of slaughter, just such sick behavior and using kids, involving kids in it, to load the pigeons up and then to pick up the mainly wounded pigeons, where they were then torn apart, their wings torn apart, their heads ripped off. Every time you hear a shot, they're shooting at a living animal that they have absolutely no intention of eating. It will be dumped like garbage, dead or alive. When I turned, on this, I thought that my fellow hunters were going to, once they learned about this, were going to step up and say, we're not going to let this tarnish our reputation, because that was my initial reaction. It was obviously cruel and cowardly and wasteful, and it was tarnishing the reputation of me as a sportsman. And I thought my fellow sportsmen would stand up, we'd go shoulder to shoulder down there and take those guns away if that's what we had to do. The only other person who would do anything with me from that side was my brother. And so, that's when you really come to realize that what you thought you stood for, you were the only one, or just about near it.
We've held many pigeons, wounded pigeons, right in this area where we pick them up and you hold them close to your chest and you can feel them, and sometimes you feel them dying in your arms, and sometimes we can get them help and they survive. But anyone who thinks that pigeons aren't wonderful animals should join with us here and hold a wounded pigeon as she's bleeding to death in front of you. And then you see what an individual, unique living being she is and why they deserve our protection.